if you're a super fast Swain. In this situation, they had so many positional options. You know, Shyvana comes back because Bami's Cinder makes that laning that much better.
Although she didn't even build it.
Absolutely, didn't even have to build it. But
my goodness,
it's just so many little factors that open up champions. And then we didn't even mention the Elise. Another way to beat a positioning-based comp that requires a hyper carry to get big. Make sure that hyper carry doesn't get a kill or an assist. No skill involved, no score involvement whatsoever coming through from Uberbro.
Yeah, and Team Immunity now thinking about whether they want to ban away the Kalista again, make this an identical ban phase than the previous series, and that has to play into Chief's hands because, I mean, they were more than happy with what happened in the picks and bans.
I mean, the Kalista being banned away,
and there it is.
By Immunity both times. Whoa. Funnily enough, as we see the Janna instantly locked in, Immunity banned Kalista on the blue side, despite the fact that Immunity themselves are 2-0 with Kalista when Uberbro is playing that champion.
Yeah.
And he has, I believe, a 14 KDA, a huge KDA
ridiculous
on that champion. They're banning it on the blue side. Kalista's been so frequently a first pick. They must have really highly prioritized the Sejuani if they were willing to leave Kalista, not pick up Kalista on the blue side with first pick last series, and then banning it away. So respect coming through to Radia.
Yeah. And Ryu actually looking to put on his best perfection impersonation here with a potential Fizz. We'll see whether that is going to be locked in. Of course, the hovers have been a little bit interesting this evening, but we've also had some crazy debuts of champions this part of the OPL, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Ryu bring that one out for the first time. He's just been such a tank player, which is why it's so interesting. But we do, of course, have the switch over at the last moment to that, of course, Sejuani yet again, but the Sivir. Get it into the hands of Uberbro. That is so smart. 6
Sivir games, 4-2 on Sivir, so it's definitely been a good pick for Team Immunity. They pick up the Sejuani as well. Didn't really work for them first game. I feel like teams over-prioritize the Sejuani. Excellent in solo queue where counter jungling, you know, aggressive warding at level 1 isn't a common thing. But in competitive, it's definitely been hit or miss. We've seen a couple of massive Sejuanis. Of course, Naya, I previously mentioned, did excellent work taking down the Chiefs with that champion. We've also seen other Sejuanis kind of get into the front, throw out the Glacial Prison, then just die in the AoE, which is obviously not ideal as a frontline tank. They're considering, Swift is considering Urgot no longer a troll pick on patch 5.5 and 5.6. A blind pick mid, maybe an overreach, but I don't mind these first 2 picks from Immunity. I would have been surprised to see the Fizz, because again, all we've seen from Ryu so far is tanky champions.
Just tanks, yeah. But, of course, doesn't look like the Urgot is going to be locked in here. I thought, of course, because Swiffer has had a lot of experience playing against the likes of Keen, who's, of course, overplaying for Gravity in North America
player.
now. He's
noted
Urgot player. They beat TSM, all right? That is a big deal. Okay, I'm just letting my bias out here, so that's definitely not good. But Spook's going to lock away the Zac for the second time. Of course, had previously a very successful performance on that champion, and it always has been a Chiefs-esque pick as well. If you look back in sort of their massive lineage of games, Zac was a big forefront in the top lane and in the jungle for these guys.
There's a lot of Zac top, as you mentioned. Swipe was a noted player that time. Still could be Zac top. I mean, Zac top a little bit less favorable. Doesn't do a lot of turret damage despite being very tanky and sustainable. Better in the jungle probably these days. I love the Jinx pick. This is one of the champions that really started to usher the first kind of downfall of Sivir as a champion pick, of it as a first pick at least, because of course Jinx does so many things with her extra range in lane. The kind of the problem if you're Sivir is that you stand in the ranged minion wave as a 500 range AD carry, and those rocket auto attacks, they hit you, they hit the minions, you push really well with them. Some very last second picks coming through, and they're going with the cannon.
Yeah, and that could be a top lane cannon, could be a mid lane cannon as well. Of course, Choo Choo's, who you guys have just previously been in contact with, played that in the mid lane yesterday.
Didn't go so well for him. And as a blind pick, look, it's a very safe champion because it's flexible. But in the mid lane, his lack of wave clear is often preyed upon. You know, it was a Xerath versus Kennen matchup in that situation. And Kennen just really couldn't counter push. That was the issue. Didn't have much lane control. You're a lane bully in the top lane because you're usually against a melee champion. You can usually just auto attack to push and then harass and go for a potential all-in. In the mid lane, you can all-in when your flash is off. If it's ever down, you just kind of sit back and last hit under turret. It doesn't apply a lot of lane pressure. So I'm not really a big fan of the Kennen mid unless you have a really big plan behind it.
Yeah, well, Immunity do have a chance to sort of wait until the picks have come through from the Chiefs, who are waiting quite some time.
Both teams are really taking time. The Janna lock came in early, and everything else has been really thought about. Athene's buffs come through. You know that Swiffer wants to make Orianna work, probably his favorite champion, and they lock it in, and suddenly You got a ball carrier, and you've certainly got the master of control mid laners in Orianna.
And I love this so much as well. So much comfort for every single one of these players. Swiper, going back to the Aurelia just makes me so incredibly happy. He was an absolute god on that champion last season, of course. He was amazing in that top lane, and Orianna for Swiffer as well. They go hand in hand. We saw he was sort of one of the most successful Oriannas thus far in the OPL, has always favored that champion. And we'll see what immunity you take into either the top or the mid lane to react to this, because there's so much comfort for the Chiefs.
And when you want champions that can dive into the back line, they've got one Zac with a 1300 range gap closer in the elastic slingshot, and they've got another one, Aurelia, who looks at all this CC and kind of laughs it off with her passive.
Yeah.
Can get very, very tanky if you get the Merc Treads. Immunity, they're looking for a wave clear mid laner. That seems to be their last pick. They were thinking about the Ziggs, who also received a direct buff in terms of mana cost and an indirect buff in terms of the Athene's buff. But they go for what has been a very popular pick recently. It's the Karthus last pick.
And I very much like this from Immunity based on sort of team synergy in a team fight, because you pop on the hunt, you've got a cannon that can just stun everyone up. You can then get Defile on everyone here because Karthus can move in. And T-Gun is just going to have his way as far as that CC is concerned. He can get every priority target locked down. And that's without talking about the CC bot that is Sejuani. There is so much lockdown.
They've tried double AP a second time now, and you're looking at Aurelia. Remember,
that's a good point.
The result of all of this is that they have to have Kennen go top lane against Aurelia, one of the oldest and most standard counter picks when Kennen was really popular on top lane. Even when he was back at 575 range, really bossed people around, was Aurelia. It's a standard Aurelia lane where the first 3 or 4 levels kind of struggles as Aurelia, gets enough points in her W especially, and then can start dominating the Kennen. So Aurelia, she's the sort of person who can dive behind all this CC, and Swiper, it might be the carry pants once again. Wonderful Shyvana, now set up to do things on Aurelia.
Yeah, well, we'll see if we can, but we are going to throw it out to Pastry Time, who's waiting alongside with Chuffer.
Thank you very much, Atlas. And yes, I am here with Chuffer, of course, to support for the Dials. And we're going to break down a couple of things in that champs like there. So pretty interesting stuff, obviously, now moving into game 2. Going to start with the supports, of course. Your favorite place, Chuffer, being in that role. What do you think of those picks coming through? Is Janna versus Leona, actually?
I think Leona can beat Janna in that lane, but I think most of the times Janna is more useful, because if Leona does try to engage, you can just obviously blow everyone away with Janna. But looking at the bans, they ban T-Gun's Morgana, which is one of his main champions. He's very good at Morgana. And I don't think he's ever played Leona in OPL, so I'm very interested to see how he was going to use this in this matchup.
Yeah, you're right. He actually has 12 games total of the 14 on Janna and Morg, and an Annie and a Thresh game, and that's it. And for someone who's played so much Engage, he's not playing very much at all. We saw the Blitz could have potentially played it there if he wanted, but do want to take it.
I think Blitz is a really, really good pick against Jinxes and Janna. I think if he did pick Blitz, it might have even warranted a lane swap. And Blitz is pretty good in that situation, because he can roam around or even try to go for the dive in bot lane.
Yeah, so the jungle now, I guess, moving to somewhere else on the map. Pretty interesting stuff. Seen a lot of tank junglers, of course, with the Cinderhawk. Zac versus Sejuani, we had Elise before. A bit more of a duel, so it does take the Cinderhawk still. What do you think of just the jungle matchup in general, and just kind of the junglers that we're seeing so much of recently?
I think from last game, you could see Sejuani. She put out a lot of pressure early game, but she couldn't really keep up with Spooks' ganking. And I think Zac has a lot more stronger pressure ganking early game, because he can bypass wards and gank bot lane or mid lane pretty easily. So I'm gonna think Spooks is the better pick right here, and he's probably gonna give Chiefs the early game that they need in this matchup.
Yeah, we talked about the bottom lane a bit, so talked about the supports. Let's move to the 80s, actually, because you used to be an 80 player for your team, actually, a long time ago. So we've got Jinx versus Sivir, a matchup we used to see a lot of when Sivir was really popular in the OPL.
Chiefs have a lot of peel for Jinx, which is good. She needs peel. They have Janna, they have Orianna shield, they have Zac to disrupt them in the during fights. But Sivir is kind of like a standalone carry. She can just ulti and do her own thing. And Sivir is really strong, but I think Jinx might be stronger than her in team fights, just because once she gets her crit items, she can easily outrange Sivir. Yeah,
I mean, the lane matchup's just kind of awkward as well. Sivir's super short range, Jinx with the rockets has some pretty long range, so you can definitely harass. I mean, as far as comps go, I think Chiefs just might have drafted a little bit better. The Karthus pick especially, to me, feels very out of place, even though it does suit cheese there in the mid lane?
Well, I feel like Immunity, they built up a really strong wombo combo team, and the only thing they needed to worry about was Orianna's ulti. And in saying that, Chiefs also have a lot of other things like Zac ulti and Jinx rocket and all that stuff to re-engage. So I do agree with you that I think Chiefs have a better comp here, but I think Immunity have a chance to take out team fights like really convincingly, like 5-0 with the wombo combo.
Yeah, you mentioned Wombo. They've got Cannon in there as well, so lots of opportunity. What are we looking for maybe in the early stages for both these teams as they sort of try and get ahead, especially Immunity, of course, who have started down a game now?
I think they want to kind of get to the mid game with a sensible item lead, but I wouldn't play too aggressive early game because the Zac I think he puts out more pressure than the Sejuani, and if they get too behind, they won't be able to do much in the mid game.
Yep, awesome stuff. But with that, we've got a game to play, guys, so let's jump straight onto the Rift.
Thank you very much, Pastry Time and Choffer, for that valuable insight. And, of course, I'm excited about this jungle matchup as well because, of course, Zac early on, Spooks early on, let me correct myself, just so frightening.
I mean, obviously the damage really isn't there early levels from the Zac, but at least level 4, when that elastic slingshot really starts to level up towards the 1300 range.
Not to mention stretch
level
Armstrong.
5. And the stretch up, I mean, the CC he puts out is always to be considered. There's a lot of damage in the lanes as well, at least from Swiper and Jinx early. There's a lot of potential for Spooks to take over a game. It wouldn't be the first time.
Oh, it certainly wouldn't. But ladies and gentlemen, game 2 now between the Chiefs and Immunity. And Immunity looking to try and get back into this one. Of course, the morale cannot be high after that pretty quick first game, but we'll see whether they can turn this one around because, of course, if anyone can do it, it's the vocal, it's the emotional T-Gun to really help them get through this one. But so far, defensive fan from both sides. It looks like no lane swaps looking to come in this time.
And look, another mention, you're talking about firsts, Atlas. The first OPL win for Orianna was, in fact, Chief Swiffer after multiple losses. Ryu's caught.
Yeah, that's actually Elastic Slingshot being taken first here by Spooks. A lot of damage down. Radius come through as well. Ryu is going to have to flash over this wall. The rocket, the double flashes to come in. The ward's down. He's actually taken Lightning Rush. Ryu's gonna be safe. That is 2 flashes for 1.
That is a big win for Team Immunity. It was so close not to be. They committed very fast.
He didn't even use a potion.
But you know what the consideration was there? That was a mistake from Swipe because he did not ward that bush. It was a potential he was in auto attack range when he flashed over. If he warded the try instantly, they might have been able to get the auto. But the result is 2 flashes for 1. Immunity will take it. They even get some aggressive wards down during all the commotion. Wow.
I think the massive thing here as well is the fact that Spooks had to take his Elastic Slingshot first up.
I mean, it's definitely not ideal. You usually pick it up at level 2. Your consistent damage isn't that high, even with attack speed runes. And his jungle path is going to be predictable because after all that, Ryu did get the ward down to get this vision. Swiper's going to have to help. He has the E as well. The early jungle, it's definitely going to be delayed. The levels you would have expected at, say, 4 minutes, going to be delayed coming from Spooks.
Yeah, Spooks, of course, now has the level 2, so he's going to be able to pick up that W for a lot more consistent damage, but it's going to be potentially a little bit more difficult without that stretching strike.
I mean, in general, there's a lot of timings to consider in the early game. We've talked a lot about this. Jinx, Janna, is one of the strongest lanes against Sivir, just because Sivir doesn't really have an option when it comes to auto. She cannot auto-attack harass with the ranged form, the rocket launcher form from Radius, so it just has to sit back, kind of seeds lane control. We'll be able to push out this wave. Orianna versus Karthus is just a split farm lane. It's just, you know, some mages trying to farm up in the mid, whereas in the top lane, it's on a timer in terms of Aurelia getting to level 5, level 6, and being able to overpower this cannon. In the bot lane, you can already see the advantage is very strong. Zac doesn't have the flash, but can still be so aggressive once he gets a couple of points in Elastic Slingshot.
Yeah, and you saw that by the farming under turret here as well by Swiffer. Knows exactly the damage levels of all of his abilities. He's so comfortable on this Orianna, able to pick up everything, and we'll see whether he can continue that comfort into these later game team fights because, of course, landing those shockwaves, as we've noted through many Orianna games, is so important.
I mean, Orianna's one of the most exciting champions to cast as a caster, just because the shockwave, it either comes up massive 5 members or it fizzles. It can be used for initiation. It can be held onto. You're always waiting for that shockwave to really understand how a team fight is going.
It can be used for dancing as well. It's a great hula hoop.
Absolutely. And the big thing is, Athene's is buffed this patch. 100% mana regen instead of 50. Whenever you get an assist, and Orianna loves getting assists, she has AoE speed up, she has shields, she's always getting assists, you get 30% of your maximum mana back. So in general, going to have so much more mana sustain with one item. If anyone was going to make the Orianna work, we knew it would be Chief Swiffer.
Yeah, well, we'll see whether he can. Of course, Cheese still doing fine here on this Karthus. Hasn't had the best previous performance on the champion, but we just know Cheese as this guy that is fantastic on these champions, that has a whole lot of AoE potential and isn't afraid of dying.
At the end of the day, there's going to be two melee divers in terms of Swiper and Spooks into the back line, and Karthus punishes those melee champions, the constant defile damage, hitting the lay waste. He's excellent against melee divers. There's multiple of them on Chiefs. You just have to worry, though, that there's a lot of disengage also. There's speed-ups, there's very fast champions. If the first kill comes through, specifically for Radia, even if he's trapped in the defile range, even if he eats a wall of pain, if the Karthus dies instantly, you're going to get that speed from the passive when they get excited and be able to get away from the Death Defied. You want to avoid that grave as much as possible, and they do have the speed ups to try and navigate away from Cheese's AoE damage.
Yeah, Spook's actually charging the slingshot here as well. Doesn't quite get the knockup, but there's the stretching strike onto Ryu. He has used the lightning rush, but it hasn't been enough. No flashes available. The red buff for the perma slow. And Swiper just equilibrium strikes for first blood.
Jungle pathing for Spooks has always been one of his strong suits, involved in so many first bloods in Chiefs games. I believe 12 out of 14 in the regular season. It continues in this game as well. Understanding that Kennen didn't have flash. They're trying to get ganks in the mid lane, but this is pre-6 Karthus and Sejuani. Not going to be too much pressure coming out from them.
Yeah, they did manage to get half of Swiffer's health here as well, of course, because that lay waste does a whole lot of damage to a single target if you do manage to get that there. And Cheese continuing to put the pressure on as far as collecting that farm and making sure that Swiffer has to pick up the farm underneath this turret.
In the early levels, the Karthus lay waste is actually a lot better than what Orianna can do with her abilities in terms of pruning the waves. So in early levels, a bit like in, say, an Ezreal versus Xerath matchup, you give it to Karthus, able to get the CS advantage. It's once you move towards level 9 and get 5 points in your Q or W, depending on what you want to max on Orianna, that you really start to get the power farm going.
Yeah, Zahi is going to be able to lock down this Scuttle Crab as well. So Rift's got the vision available for immunity now, as well as Spooks is taking down these Raptors. Cheese now with more pressure onto Swiffer, who is now forced to use the flash. Does actually have the shockwave available. Zahi taking a lot of damage. Clockwork wind up doing some work as well. Was that double flash instantly? It was from immunity. Spooks getting all the respect today.
I mean, the Elastic Man coming from out of vision gets double flash. I don't think there was the damage to deal with it. In bot lane, seeing some trades as well, but I have no idea why Cheese especially fun. He had exhaust if things were getting a bit hairy. The shockwave was already down, but the respect flash suddenly going to have to play so passively in the mid lane.
Hey, if there's a gigantic purple man coming out of the sky, I would probably flash away as well.
Well, I mean, this is the highest level competitive play. I have to feel like they'd be able to judge the fact there wasn't enough damage there to take either of them down from full health, but the result is 2 flashes down, so definitely a success.
Yeah, doesn't quite manage to land the knock up here in the top side, but Lightning Rush is used by Ryu. Now has the flash available yet again, and that was what Spooks wanted to get out here as the wave going to start pushing again.
It is just ludicrous to me, Atlas. Sorry to cut you off. Zach's actually 5 CS ahead, despite the fact he seems to be flying into a lane every time the cameraman moves.
And he's actually going for that chilling smite here as well, so making sure that he can have as much ganking pressure as possible.
I mean, how he's being able to balance CSing with ganking, this is one of the reasons why Spooks is one of the top junglers in the Oceanic scene and has been for so many years. His balancing act, his pathing, the fact that every gank blows a flash or applies so much pressure, that's all off the back of excellent jungle play from Spooks.
Well, speaking of jungle play, the Dragon going to be started now for immunity. They noted the fact that the Chiefs had gone back, especially on that bottom side of the map. And T-Gun helping out with some sunlight. Uberbro with a fair bit of consistent damage now with that BF sword. And the first Dragon going to fall here for immunity right under the noses of the Chiefs.
But Kennen is in vision, so they will have the exact timer of this Dragon. First Dragon, it's a nice thing because it's not the old Dragon. It doesn't give you the global gold. It doesn't necessarily help you landing too much just because you don't have the flat stats for the percentage to be a big deal. So Chiefs, with all the pressure they put out, they'll take that little disadvantage of giving up the first Dragon.
Yeah, and we spoke about sort of the priority that immunity and the Chiefs both put on this Sivir pick, and we also discussed that Jinx has an easy time in that lane as far as that matchup is concerned. But you can see actually Uberbro doing quite well as Cheese is going to get knocked up here as well. There's the Let's Bounce. The Shockwave, easy as you like, and Cheese, he's going to fall. We'll see whether Spooks is going to get that passive propped as Transcendent Blade's actually in the top lane here as well. It's a nice stun to come through from Ryu, but the Blade Surge was held onto here by Swiper. He really wants to get this kill. The flash for the last auto attack and the 1v1 kill. This is what I was talking about. This is the Aurelia player we've known from Swiper.
And look, Swiper is a noted Aurelia player, definitely comfortable in that champion. I have to question whether Ryu is comfortable on Cannon. He had the ultimate available the whole time and never used it for a potential stun, and he falls down.
Yeah, there's actually a Shield of Daybreak and the Solar Flare as well under Radiant. Forced to use that flash. The Ignite's ticking down. There's the ultimate to come through from Cheese. Super Mega Death Rocket just because you can, but that is going to be the first kill for the Karthus.
Zach's channeling up. Spook's still fairly low health. I believe he still has his passive
really little
available. Yeah, he still has his passive though, so still has a faux Anivia Rebirth in that passive, so could have still chosen to play aggressively. Chooses not to, probably smart. Karthus, when he fell in mid, you know what he was thinking, Alice? He was thinking, wish I had my flash.
Yes. Well, let's not bring that back up. That's a bit mean, Papa Smithy.
It's just all I can say. It was too defensive a flash, and he's going for this late game build. Now got the Catalyst and Tia. This Karthus, in terms of those first uses of the Requiem, just got a kill off the back of it, but the next Requiem, the damage is certainly going to be fairly delayed, and it's going to be a 25-30 minute power spike for the Karthus, rather than a much earlier rush of the Rod of Ages.
Yeah, and Swiffer more than happy to go for this. Athene's, as you mentioned, now has been buffed, is feeling like a much better item choice, and Swiffer more than happy to pick up this Orianna yet again, but still behind in farm. Cheese has been doing a fantastic agricultural display this game.
Agricultural display, absolutely. I love the terms there, Atlas. We're going to see a lot more of the likes of Orianna and Karthus in the mid lane, with Athene's being buffed. It's even more than that. It's the fact that the Grail, sorry, the first part of that, the 900 gold investment,
yeah,
before
the
Chalice investment, it's so much cheaper. Suddenly you have a defensive option that much earlier against the tough matchups like LeBlanc, the other AP assassins. You can be safe on champions like Orianna, and then you get the payoff of the buffed Athenes. Orianna, Karthus, of course Karthus not going to need the Athenes as much, but control mages with all these tanks, all these ball carriers, they look good.
Yeah, and in comes Spooks here as well. The Let's Bounce is available, but he gets stunned up there by the Solar Flare. I am trying to turn this one around as Rosie. He's probably going to be the one to fall down. Actually doesn't die just yet. The Zap comes through onto Ryu as well. As Swiffer comes through from the backside, Uberbro gets a whole lot of health back, but Radier gets excited after Ryu falls down. It was a beautiful spell shield from Uberbro, but now T-Gun in trouble. And the Chiefs, that was looking awful, but somehow they still come out ahead.
Yeah, they had the cavalry coming through Swiffer. He still has the ultimate. That cooldown hasn't been used. I feel like Ryu just thought that Aurelia was dead. She lived. And it's a 1-for-0 trade. Should be a turret as well.
Yeah, and Spook's actually slingshotting himself under that one, so making sure that they're going to zone everyone out here as Radier gets excited one more time. Cheese, he didn't rotate, and you have to think that that was a large reason as to why they didn't win this team fight. And let's have a look again.
I mean, it was a crazy team fight coming through. T-Gun was caught, you could say, but of course, multiple members coming through. I love the fact that Zai held on to the ultimate. He was only going to hit Spooks, the one member. The Slicing Maelstrom comes through. Rosie feels so low. Still lives, though. I guess Ryu must have miscalculated the damage upon him. And then the cavalry comes, able to get the pick without using the shockwave. That was an interesting thing. Honestly, there's no reason for Karthus to rotate. Rotational play is not Karthus' forte. Not really Swiffer's on Orianna either, but just, of course, has the speed up to be able to get there. The Requiem wasn't available, so he wasn't able to put out a helping hand. The result, though, is a kill and a turret for the Chiefs.
And you have to hand it to Immunity here as well. They've got a whole lot of damage down onto that outer turret in the bottom lane here as well, just from their wave pressure in general. They didn't need to win a team fight in order to get that damage down, so Siva still doing her job. You can see even on items with Radier here as well, who has picked up a kill for himself. But Uberbro's just always had very consistent performances on this champion, and it looks to be happening yet again. Of course, had a 0-5-0 performance on the Cogmore, but now already has an assist to his name, so infinitely better.
He's gone for the Avarice Blade also, has the matching AD items, then the Avarice Blade for a bit more investment banking, you know, going to work his way, bank his way towards that Infinity Edge fairly fast. Not to harp on about Ryu, which I have been doing this game, but Haunting Guys means that a Zhonya's or another teamfight item is going to be delayed, and while you're going to do good damage with that first Slicing Maelstrom, the enemy team first picked Janna. I don't really know, barring an amazing flank, how you're going to get that Slicing Maelstrom onto any priority targets whenever the Monsoon is available.
I guess they have sort of 3 targets that they want to get out of the team, 4 targets that they want to get out of the team, and on the hunt to get him back in there. But you're exactly right. I don't quite see how Kennan's going to keep himself in there without that Zhonya's to really stop the displacement from coming through.
It's always been Janna and Alistar that were really the big deterrents to picking Kennen. Exhaust as a Summer Smell does work, but any displacement, whether it's the Headbutt, whether it's the Monsoon, even if you're able to interrupt the path with a well-placed Q, all of those deal with what Kennan's looking to, and the Kennen was picked after Janna. Janna was the first overall pick of the draft. So it's going to be difficult to see how Ryu, after a hard early game, will he be able to stand up to Aurelia with the Haunting Guys build, and will he be able to get the massive ultimate to really win a fight?
Yeah, Ryu still with the CS advantage though, so doing well in that front, but continuing to stay on this top side of the map. No teleport available from this Kennen. Does have the ult up, but Zahi looking to try and come through. Glacial Prison is available. Chiefs have to be careful about stacking up onto one another, and Rosie just playing the defense and easily take down the Dragon. Nothing Zahi could do for that one. They want to trade for some turrets here, but we'll see whether Swiper is going to make it back to this top side. Ryu has a huge wave and a couple of Doran's Blades.
There was just no way to contest for IM. Remember, Ryu stayed top. Aurelia walked bottom lane, so they had a free Dragon. There was no way they could pressure it. Just waiting for the rotation. Aurelia's going to get to top soon, but probably not soon enough to pick up kills. Uberbro, he's been caught out.
Yes, he most certainly has. Exhausted here as well as the Boomerang comes down and Radiant gets excited about it. He's going to pick up the kill as Swiper did actually manage to save that turret.
I mean, there's a lot of dissension on when to pick up the Scrying Orb on AD carry. The moment the Sight Zone was completed, Radiant picked it up, and it came up trumps in that situation, getting them the vision. As in the mid lane, we see just plenty of wave clearing in top. Ryu is already zoned from the creep wave.
Yeah, oh, there's actually the Blade Surge to come through as well. Transcendent Blades coming down. The stun comes down onto Swiper, but not for too long. Another flash auto attack, and Swiper again with a solo kill.
Yeah, Swiper on his favorite champion. Ryu, on what we can only assume is not a comfortable pick, is Swiffer.
Yep, Solar Flare to come through here as well. Spooks just...
The zoning elastic slingshot charge.
That was beautiful to watch. Just like, I'm ready. Bring it. Didn't happen though, as Swiper just going to make sure as many of these creeps die to the turret. And he's just going to chill out and back there as well. Actually decides to take down this wave. So the outer turret in the top lane going to fall down, the second for the Chiefs. And again, with a whole lot of control this game, but it's only 1,000 gold, the lead. And Immunity still in with a shot. Arctic Assault and a bit of a stun from T-Gun onto Swiffer, but only breaks the shield. Zahi takes half of his health.
I mean, kind of the issue is a similar issue that we saw repeatedly yesterday in our series between Direwolves and Legacy, was there were multiple times where Perfection would pick a carry top laner, and for example, in the game when Minkywa picked Rumble, there just became a point where he couldn't enter lane against the champion he was against. And look, he's built the Haunting Guys for team fight. He doesn't have anything to deal with Aurelia's mixed damage, not health, not even armor. At this point, Kennen, he can't go into the top lane if Aurelia's there.
Yeah, Radiant got excited, popped a chop, and nothing doing, but they do take down the final outer turret here as well to the Chiefs. And despite the fact that they scale fine into the later stages of the game, what with a Jinx now and of course that Aurelia and Orianna here as well, they're still managing to have a large amount of control in this early stage of the game. And the map pressure that's now going to be available with that middle lane outer turret down as Ubero, the Equilibrium Strike going to be blocked out here, but the Transcendent, oh my goodness, the last one, not quite enough. But Swiper, I think the message was delivered.
And that's the thing. Multiple members will have to be sent to deal with Swiper. They cannot send a matching teleport user because Ryu can't enter lane. He's delayed the Zhonya's with that Haunting Guys pickup, has the nearest large rod for the damage side, but cannot enter lane. They're going to need to send multiple members. And the big issue there is that you send multiple members top, it opens up free dragons, free turrets, more rotations for a team like the Chiefs, who already showed excellent rotational play in the first game. And look, he can back away and teleport to the 5-man stack. So Dragon now suddenly looks like a very difficult objective to contest if Swiper just stayed anchored to this top lane. And item timing is coming through across the board. Aegis is finished against the double AP coming through from the Chiefs. From Immunity. The needlessly large rod on top of the Athenes means pretty instant wave clear coming through from Swiffer. Item timings and just the whole way that the lineups have gone, specifically the 1v1 top lane matchup, really suit the Chiefs.
Yeah, and there still is this 3-man stack of people in the top lane for Immunity. They were trying to take down that outer turret, but Swiper's just an immovable rock here, and you're not going to be able to dive that man.
Well, there's 3 members at the top side trying to lock him down. Look, even if they do, there's going to be so many other advantages the Chiefs can get.
Yeah, and the Ionian Fervor as well. We'll see whether he's going to survive this one. Trying to turn it around aggressively here, but Uberbro picks up the kill, the shutdown onto Swiper, and it seems like 3 men was enough to deal with Swiper.
3 men were enough, and importantly, Radier had just shopped, so he wasn't with the 3 other members in mid lane to potentially take down an inner turret. Spooks is still looking to do that. The minion wave is coming soon. The dive might be on.
Yeah, we shall see as Spooks does have that elastic slingshot to get himself in there, and we'll see whether Swiffer can pass him the ball for the alley-oop, possibly into the backside. Command attack is going to be there, and the inner turret is going to be conceded here by Immunity. They don't manage to take the inner turret on the top side of the map, but it is going to be a turret trade in the end, and the kill going to Immunity as well. So actually gaining some ground after that one.
And the inner mid turret is down. The outer bottom turret is down. And look at the pink wards they have around the Dragon. Dragon control is completely in the pocket of the Chiefs. And Immunity, they haven't been able to go past their river on the bottom side of the map since very early in this game.
Yeah, but Immunity, I guess they still do have sort of the stall wave clear available from Cheese. They've now got the Sivir to be able to boomerang those waves as well. But talking about wave clear from AD carry, but Spooks, he's coming in, and Ryu
at the back
may have actually got launched into exactly where he wants to be, but not quite as Swiper comes through the backside. Super Mega Death Rocket doesn't quite find too much, but that's Jinx getting excited, actually flashing forward here as well. T-Gun forced to use that flash to get over the Flame Chompers as Spooks, no fear at all, just heading straight towards this team, taking down Swiper actually is Cheese on the backside with that Requiem. Beautiful use of the ultimate, as there's the Ricochet to come through from Ubero, but he may have overextended. Swiffer trying to pick it up. There's the command attack for it, and T-Gun, he's going to follow as well. Double kill now for the Orianna. 3-0 and 3, starting to get going.
2 crazy acts of aggression between the AD carries. The flash chompers coming through from Radier to try and block the retreat, and then finally the flash in from Ubero when he saw multiple low members. He was thinking triple kill there, Atlas.
Oh, yeah.
Couldn't quite pull it off. Big win for the Chiefs overall. I love the fact they went for the flank, teleport flank from Irelia. There's not been enough teleport flanking in the OPL so far. That's what Kennen wants to do in the late game, is maybe getting a bit of excitement thinking about the possibility from that. But the result is another teamfight win for Chiefs.
Yeah, but Immunity sort of able to manage to get around to this Dragon a little bit earlier on. Rosie is going to be able to chuck a ward over. They do discover that this one's being taken down. He's taking a fair bit of damage here as well, as Karthus is going to come in. Those lateways going to do a fair bit of work. Spooks wants to come through for the steal. We'll see whether he can land it. Doesn't quite manage to, as Zahi does redeem himself for previous solo queue performances. Cheese taking a fair bit here as well as the boomerang comes back around. And the Chiefs unable to punish the take of the first Dragon, which is very... Oh, the Super Mega Death Rocket! I take it all back. Cheese gets caught as well, and that is 2-0 for the Dragon going to Immunity.
The moment a pick comes, so you know that Get Excited means that Radier will launch himself into the fight. Has red buff, already shown his aggression and willing to use flash chompers for engage. This is a Radier that we have not seen before. Usually he's the safe, level-headed one at the back of the fight, but he's fighting right at the front.
He is. Actually, Zap going to land onto T-Gun here as well, but not going to do too much damage, of course. Pretty tanky is the Leona, but my goodness, the Chiefs with no fear at all. They're taking down this Baron, and it's getting taken down quickly. Zahi and Cheese have only just respawned. Solar Flare not going to land any stuns, as Rosie just going to try and deter members. There's the 3-man shockwave to come through as Spooks launches himself into the fight. Cheese, he's respawned. Thank you very much for letting us know. As oh my gosh, Ryu just dies. Swiffer just zoning everyone away. The Baron falls down. Swiper launches over the edge, and Uber Bro, he knows that he's dead. T-Gun probably has a similar idea. Command attack not going to find it though. The double kill for Swiper, picking up a reset. 15-3, massive gold lead for the Chiefs. 22.5 minutes into the game. It's looking like another one, Papa Smithy.
Yeah, they're running over this Immunity lineup. Immunity again pick a scaling comp, and Chiefs go for the early aggression, even with champions like Orianna and Jinx that need a few items. I mean, we're not even mentioning Swiper and that need for a Trinity Force. They rotated so aggressively and forced so many choices. Immunity, the game's not over, but it might as well be.
Yeah, it's looking very, very difficult. And we've spoken about Orianna's before. We're like, oh, if they just have that one item, not quite able to do what they need to. This is not a one-item Orianna this time. This is almost a 3-item Orianna at 23 minutes. That is so scary.
1,000 gold away from the voice up for the completed mid build, the 3-item power spike. Orianna doing a lot of work. Again, all of this comes off the back of excellent pathing from Spook.
Oh, yeah.
In the early game, we noted the fact that he seemed to be balancing killing minions with killing champions, just being involved in lanes, blowing flashes like no other. His jungle pathing was far superior to that of Zahi. And again, the Sejuani pick, it's found wanting. It does one thing well. It does AoE CC initiates very, very well. But for the first 6 levels, you're just basically sitting there killing minions, hoping you don't see anyone in your jungle, because you can't really react to that.
Yeah, T-Gun actually getting taken down by Swiper here, who just wanders casually out of that solar flare. Does manage to pop a little bit of speed, but Swiper picks up that kill easy as you like. The rest of the members of Chiefs going to take down this inner turret. And, I mean, T-Gun tried to turn that around, but Swiper's Aurelia, man, it's so aggressive.
I mean, you might not know this, but Aurelia was nerfed this match. Probably doesn't matter after a performance like this.
Yeah, Let's Bounce coming through here as well. Uberbro taking a fair bit of damage with Spooks, just trying to stop them from getting near this turret. It is going to get taken down. Swiffer now unstoppable at 5-0 and 8. The base is broken. The Chiefs, they don't need to worry about more inhibitors. They've got the Baron buff. These Nexus turrets, not long for this world. And the Chiefs just putting on a demolition show today.
Absolutely. Another excellent mid-game from the Chiefs. We don't expect anything less. T-Gun goes in for another shout, dies again, basically dying on spawn, and the rest of the team watching. Wow!
Oh my goodness, Super Mega Death Rocket Shockwave to come through. Beautiful combo as Cheese forced a flash onto his fountain. The Nexus is exposed. There's a Requiem, but it's a Requiem for the end of the game. Cheese singing us out there as Immunity now down 0-2.
A decisive performance from Chiefs once again, just running over Immunity. I repeat that word because that's what they did. Bulldozed over this Immunity lineup. Immunity, they really need to consider their picks. I think the pick ban phase let them down there. The cannon into Janna was never going to be happy. The cannon into Aurelia as well, not a happy matchup.
Cannon into that was a bad idea.
The insistence on the early Sejuani picks that really haven't been working for them. Immunity, you've got one game left to try and put up a fight, get a win in this best of 5. The important thing they need to do, get a bit of mid-game in there. Try and get the mid-game kind of down pat because the mid-game's being run away with by the Chiefs.
Yeah, but we've got a replay, ladies and gentlemen, and let's just see how the Chiefs managed to take this one.
All right, so the Chiefs, this began with Immunity pushing very aggressively. I think this is going to include some aggression will be probably the word used for Radio of all people, usually the passive person at the back.
And Ryu actually gets in a decent position for a Slicing Maelstrom here as well.
And he's level 11. He's got a decent stack of AP and magic penetration, so we'll roll the tape. Immunity have been trying to poke through as Spooks comes in for initiation. I love the flank initiate coming through from Array. It's not Cannon though, so of course only has single target, will fall down. But the moment Radia gets excited, he goes crazy, sees multiple members and flashes for the Chompers. I never expected to say that when we're talking about Radia, but that's what he goes for at this point. They use the Requiem just for disengage. They want the team to back away. They pick up Swiper as well, so it's doing double duty. T-Gun, look, this when Uberbro notices the low health members, he flashes in. They don't have wards in that brush.
And the heal.
It would have been big, but yes, the heal bait comes with. They don't have wards, so they probably lose at least one auto attack. So it's 2 kills coming through on the backside for Orianna. And the mid game, again, is the big thing, and they run away with the game.
Yeah, it's just beautiful play here as well. But the Chiefs also able to use a late game comp in the same style, this strangling style where they take down so many early turrets. But we're going to throw it out to pastry time.
Hey guys, we're here, of course, back for a bit of post-game analysis. And I'm here with Choo Choo's back with the mid laner for Legacy. Incredible game 2 there coming through for Chiefs. You just look almost unstoppable at this point.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that game was over within 10 minutes, I think.
Yeah, I mean, just so much interesting stuff to talk about in the early game especially. I do want to go back a little bit, actually, to the draft almost. So we've got mid lane. I know you love the mid lane, of course, being a mid lane player. But Cleanse there, being the pickup for Swiffer. I don't know, you're a big fan of this summoner spell.
Yeah, I mean, what do they have? They had like Leona, Sejuani, like Cannon ults as well. I mean, there's so much CC and Cleanse. I think like as good. Ignite looks really good into a Karthus matchup with Orianna, but I think Swiffer was really smart taking Cleanse versus such a heavy CC comp.
Yeah, and then kind of moving through there as well. We had Shuffer talk about it a little where Zach could output a bit more pressure Ganko's in Sejuani and the Spooks. Yeah. It was just all gang pressure, even from level 1.
Yeah, I mean, Spooks definitely. Like, he's been playing incredibly. Like, the first game, like, amazing. The second game, same thing. Like, he got Swiper ahead early and Swiper destroyed his lane, and that pretty much snowballed like a split push, which no one could deal with on Immunity side. And then he did some amazing elastic slingshots in so many team fights, and Rady could just clean them up.
Yeah, I mean, the top lane matchup's sort of interesting. Aurelia, I think, eventually gets to a point where she's good against Cannon. But, I mean, was that just them sort of picking on the top laner?
I mean,
Yeah, I think Spooks knew that if he got Aurelia ahead, they couldn't deal with this Aurelia split push. And Kennen going Haunting Guys really like delayed his power spike for that Zhonya's Hourglass because he's just too squishy, especially with a Fed Aurelia.
Yeah, so great stuff there. But